What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Hardware Wallet Summer, where today I'm reviewing the Keystone 3 Pro. If you've been following this channel for a while, you've probably seen other videos that I've done on hardware wallets and specifically on the Keystone. The Keystone for me is sort of a high-end security wallet that is trying to get more and more user-friendly. The same way that Coldcard's suite of products are open source and air-gapped and Bitcoin only, Keystone's product is also very similar. It has a Bitcoin only firmware, but then on the other hand, if you did want to store altcoins on this, you could do that as well. And then finally, at the end of the video, I'll be giving you my thoughts and opinions on this device and how it's similar or different to some of the other devices that we've reviewed on the channel. So go down below and smash the like button for Hardware Wallet Summer, and let's level up your brains. So we're just gonna go ahead and unbox this here. It's a very easy unboxing process. We've got our device in here. It's a lot smaller than the last Keystone device, and I like that it doesn't have that like weird battery attachment that came with the previous device. It seems like this is an all-in-one device and it's just going to charge via USB-C down here. We've got our USB-C to USB-C. We've got a bunch of different cards to write down seed phrases on. This is really nice. A lot of other companies only give you one card for a seed phrase, and I end up using it in the demo and then not having an actual piece of paper to write down my seed phrase on. So really cool that they're giving us multiples of these, but again, this is not secure whatsoever. Obviously, I could have $100,000 on this hardware wallet and then just rip up all this stuff, and now it's all gone. So instead, you should obviously be storing your seed phrase on bulletproof sheets of titanium, like this one from CryptoTag. Link in the description. We've got a setup guide here, and we have a 15 to 25% discount on our next purchase. I'm gonna go ahead and scratch this off and then leave the discount code somewhere in the video. Feel free to grab this if you're the first person to see it. They've also got this kind of interesting thing that you can use. It's like a little sticky that you can put to the bottom of a desk or a table to turn the packaging that they sent you into a functional drawer. Kind of an interesting upcycling idea, but I'm not going to do that because I'm not very good at building things. So really the main event here is the hardware wallet, and the build quality of this thing is really great. I'm gonna just go ahead and peel off the little thing from the front. And there we go. There's a camera here on the back you can see. That'll go into focus. We've got a little slot on the side for an SD card if we want to use this in an air-gapped fashion. And then we've got a power button there on the right, and a little USB-C charging port at the bottom. So this is a very sleek device. It's very comfortable in the hand. The build quality is very high. And I think overall, Keystone does a really good job with not only the security of the device, but also the presentation of the device and the design language and everything like that. Comparing it to the Ledger Stax, it is a little bit bigger and thicker. But again, the Ledger Stax is an incredible piece of engineering, and if you want to see that review, I'll have links up in the cards and down in the description. Worth noting that the Ledger Stax is also more than twice the price of this Keystone device. So Keystone has done a really good job at keeping this very affordable also, as well as feeling like a very premium product. What's up guys, Rhett from the future. A bit of an abrupt change of scenery here. I didn't have time to set up this Keystone during that first filming session, and so I'm here. Let's just pretend nothing has changed, and let's go ahead and set up this device. All right, so to set this up, we're just gonna press this button on the side and hold this down to turn on the device. If you press and hold it down for a little while there, it looks like my device is dead. So right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and plug this into power because my device is dead, but if I press and hold down this button here on the side, you'll see that the Keystone logo comes up, and then we'll see up here that my device is charging, and we'll see which firmware we're on. Right now, I'm on version 1.2.8. So now I can go ahead and just click on this little button to continue. I'll select my language as English. And then here I can verify the device. So it's saying the first step here is to visit the website and click on the Start Verification button. And for anyone who wants to follow along with this tutorial using a written guide, I'll have one down in the description. So I went ahead and opened this Keystone URL here over on my computer. And so now we can proceed with the setup steps from their website. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Verify Device. And again, it's very important that you use their actual links and not some malicious phishing website. So I'll have all the real links down in the description. Let's go ahead and click on Verify Device. And then on our actual Keystone device, we're going to select Scan QR Code. And we're just going to hold this up to the QR code that's there on the screen. You're going to have to get pretty close with this to the screen. And now I'm seeing a little orange progress bar that is showing me that my device is scanning the QR code. And because it's a video QR code, it's going to take a few seconds there, but eventually when it's done, you should see something like this showing you a verification code on the device. And so now if I go back to the website, I can enter the verification code that I'm seeing on the device, which in my case is 5HNC WMF2. Now I'll go ahead and click on verify. So now my device is authenticated and we can prove that this is actually a device that came from Keystone and not some sort of fake device that got sent to me by a hacker. So I can click on done here and now I can kind of be done with my computer for a little bit. We'll go back onto the Keystone device and go ahead and continue. We'll say that that is verified and we'll continue with our setup. The next step is to update the firmware that's living on the device. You can do this in one of two ways. You can do this by transferring firmware on an SD card from your computer into the device using this little SD card reader over on the side of the Keystone, or you can simply plug your Keystone into your computer. The reason that they offer micro SD cards as an option, even though it's a little bit less convenient, is because it is a little bit more secure. It's called using your device in an air-gapped fashion, which means that your device, which is generating private keys offline, is never even physically connected to any other computer ever, period, end of story. It's even getting its firmware updates from source code that's openly verifiable that you can check on your computer before you load it onto the device. So if you're super paranoid about your security, which I think a lot of people are for a good reason, I would recommend that you go and set up your device in an air-gapped fashion just to make it easier for you to sleep at night. But I think for most people, especially anyone that's using this device in a collaborative custody multi-sig with something like Casa or Unchained Capital, the security benefits that you're gaining from air-gapping a lot of the times are not worth really the squeeze of having to go through all of that process. And so I'm going to be plugging this device directly into my computer and taking the firmware updates that way, because I think that's how most people are going to actually be using this device. All right, so now I've connected my Keystone to my Mac and I chose the USB update option. And so now I'm going to go to this URL that I'll have down in the description, Keystone Web USB. And if I switch over now to my computer, we can see that I have two firmware options. I have the multi-coin firmware option and I have a Bitcoin only firmware option that I'm going to choose for this video. I think that the Keystone is one of the best multi-crypto wallets that are out there from a security perspective. It's all open source. They're doing all the right things when they created this device. But I personally really only store Bitcoin on devices like this, so I'm going to go ahead with the Bitcoin only firmware. If you're using this device to store things like Ethereum or Solana, you would obviously click on the multi-coin firmware, and then you'll have more options as far as what wallets you can put onto this device. So after I've selected Bitcoin only here, I'm going to go ahead and click on connect, and then my browser here is going to search for this Keystone as a compatible device. So it actually wasn't finding it there because I had it plugged into the wrong device. So now if I actually plug it into my computer, let's see if I go back and try that again. Click on connect. I'll approve the connection on the device. And now I'm seeing Keystone 3 Pro here, and I'll click on connect. So once I install the single currency firmware, I cannot switch back to the multi-currency firmware. If my multi-currency firmware version is 1.5 or above, I have to wipe the device before I choose this Bitcoin only firmware. So be aware that once you go down this Bitcoin only path, you're not going to be able to go back. I don't really do demos of other cryptocurrencies on this channel, and so I'm going to be okay using this Bitcoin only firmware, but if you ever think that you're going to be storing other coins on this in the future, I would go ahead and just use the regular firmware that supports all of the tokens. For everyone else, I'm going to go ahead and continue with the Bitcoin only firmware here by just clicking on download. We can see here I'm going from the 1.2.8 on Multicoin to the 1.1.0 Bitcoin only firmware, and now we'll click on download. And so now as you can see, it is updating the firmware on my device, and this is going to take about 5 minutes, it says. All right, so now that download is completed, if we switch back to this camera, we can see that we are ready to create our wallet on the Keystone. So let's go ahead and do that. Hardware wallet should be for personal use only. Do not share to avoid asset risks. So I'm going to be sharing this entire setup process, but do not do what I'm doing, obviously. Because if anyone else sees your seed phrase, then they will be able to take all of your money. So don't do what I'm doing. Listen to Keystone. Don't share your seed phrase. Don't share your setup with anybody. I feel like I'm getting tired of saying stuff like this, but it happens. Don't share your seed phrase. Let's go ahead and click on I understand, and we'll set a PIN code. I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6. It looks like it has to be 6 digits. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's go ahead and name this wallet MO. Wallet. There's some haptic feedback here on the keyboard that's making it a little easier to type. We'll go ahead and do a standard seed phrase, noting that we do have an option here for a Shamir backup. I've never actually done a Shamir backup on the channel, so if anyone is interested in this, let me know, and maybe I can do a separate tutorial on something like this. But I think for 99% of people, you're just going to want to go with a standard seed phrase. Make sure that no one is watching you. Obviously, write down your seed phrase for the reasons that we just talked about. Go ahead and click on OK. And so here's our seed phrase. So Fabric is the first one, Echo, Agree, and you have to go in number order here. So if we're bringing this to the camera, make sure you write down Fabric as number 1, Echo as number 2, Agree as number 3. because if you mix up these words in order, you will lose your funds. So the order of the words matters a lot, and make sure that when you're writing them down on your little piece of paper here, that you're writing them down next to the appropriate number. So on the piece of paper, it's going 1, 2, 3 across the top. And on the Keystone, it is also going 1, 2, 3 across the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and write all this stuff down, and then I will see you in a minute. So here I have written down all of the words of my seed phrase, and so now when I go to the next screen here on the Keystone, it's hopefully going to give me a little quiz. So now I have to confirm the seed phrase. If I click on cook here, it's going to label that as number 1. And so, you tap and untap to label them correctly. So now I'm going to pull up my little seed phrase thing over here that I wrote, and then fill it out over here on the right. This is actually a really interesting way to do this seed phrase confirmation, and I think I like this better than having to manually type it in. So good job to Keystone for coming up with a really good user experience here. Okay, so I've typed it all in. Let's see if I did it correctly. And I said that I liked that as a user experience when I first started doing it, but after I did it, I'm not sure if it was my favorite thing. I do kind of like typing it out and making sure that what I have written down is actually, what's on the device. But pretty good. Just, again, remember to go across and not down. So it needs to be 1, 2, 3 across, 4, 5, 6 across, and not down. All right, so now I'm presented with these 2 buttons here. I have a receive button and a scan button. So let's go ahead and click on receive and receive some Bitcoin from Coinbase. This address is exclusively for Bitcoin transactions. Don't send other assets here. Got it. All right. So we've got our little screen here. We're going to open up Coinbase on our iPhone. Bada bing. Click on transfer here and send crypto. Send some Bitcoin. Scan a QR code. Just scan this little device, and we'll send $15. And we'll send that right now. And there we go. So that was actually incredibly fast. Hard to beat that. You're clicking receive, and then you scan your QR code, and you're good to go. I don't know. A lot of other devices are not like that. You have to use some software wallet, or some other piece of, Sparrow Wallet or Ledger Live or Trezor Suite or whatever. This, having it all just be right on here, and I didn't have to go export this to Sparrow Wallet, which I'm sure I could if I wanted to do that. I could use that experience. I could, export this XPub over to my computer and put it on Sparrow Wallet, but just the ability to do what I just did is very powerful. If you need the QR code to be any bigger, I know people that I've worked with in the past have had trouble with some of these QR codes. Remember that when you're scanning the QR code, you need the entire QR code within the picture. So this is a really cool user experience here on the Keystone. And then up here, if you click on the 3 dots, there is the Export XPub button. So if you did want to throw this onto something like a Sparrow Wallet, that is an option. And so the next thing that we need to do here to see our balance is we can click on these 3 dots up here on the main page, and then we'll click on this Connect Software Wallet button. And so we have the option to connect Blue Wallet, Nunchuk, or Sparrow. I'm going to go ahead and click on Nunchuk because we haven't used Nunchuk in a long time. We have not used Nunchuk in so long that it's not even installed on my iPhone. So what you're going to want to do is go to the App Store and type in Nunchuk. I'll download this little Nunchuk looking thing. Nunchuk is a really cool app that we covered recently here on the channel. It's very similar to Cost and Unchained Capital, and if you want to see that comparison, I'll have a video link up in the cards and down in the description. Let's go ahead here with Nunchuk, and we'll click on plus up here on wallets. You'll see here on Nunchuks, we have wallets and we have keys. All right, so once you have Nunchuk open, I'm trying to make sure there's no glare on the screen here. You'll click on keys, and then you can click on add an air-gapped key. So we've initialized the device and we've unlocked the device. So now we'll click on continue, and we'll click on scan QR code. And we just scan this QR code here, and it's done it. So now it's showing me these 3 derivation paths on the screen. It's showing me M, H, whatever, M84H, M49H, and M44H. And when you see these, you're probably gonna be like, what the hell do these things mean. Why can't someone just speak English around here? And so what they mean, if you use ChatGPT, is 44H is legacy addresses, don't use that. 49 is SegWit 1.0 or whatever. I probably don't use that either. And then 84 is native SegWit, which for most of you is probably what you should be using. It would be nice if it just imported all three, but it doesn't. It is what it is. I'm gonna click on 84. Your funds will never be like lost forever if you pick the wrong one, but you can end up in situations where like you sent all the Bitcoin into the 44 address and like you're reading from the 84 address and you can yourself up and feel like, why do I see that I have all this money in this wallet, but I can't actually spend it? It's because your keys are mismatched like that. So if you make a mistake on that and it's affecting you at some point in the future, just know that it's not irrecoverable. You still will always have access to all your funds, but you might have to do some weird gymnastics to get them back. Ultimately, if you take your seed phrase and you load this seed phrase into another device, you'll be able to have access to all of your funds, and that should solve whatever problem you're dealing with. Anyway, we've loaded the derivation path for native SegWit onto Nunchuk, and now we're just gonna go ahead and click on add key. No key name, please make one. Good point. Keystone 3 Pro, add key. All right, so now we've added this key, and we can just go ahead and click on X up here, and now we have the option to sign for this key over on our Nunchuk wallet on our iPhones. The glare is horrible. All right, so we're gonna solve this problem with screen recording. So once we've got our key in here, we can click over here on wallets, and then we'll just click on create new wallet and create new wallet again. We'll call this wallet Keystone 3 Pro, and we'll leave the rest of these settings alone and click on continue. We'll select this one key that we just imported from the Keystone 3 Pro to be the only key in this wallet that we're creating. So we'll click on continue again. So now we get to review the wallet. We are creating it. It's called the Keystone 3 Pro. It's a 1 of 1 single sig. And what's really nice about this is if I wanted to, in the future, create a 2 of 3 multi-sig, it would be really easy for me to reuse the same key that I just loaded from the Keystone onto my iPhone. And that's sort of the beauty of using a product like Nunchuk. So next we can go ahead and click on create a wallet. And now we'll go ahead and save this BSMS file. This is basically a wallet configuration file. We can keep it safe using something like 1Password, but it's not something that like we have to stop backing up to the internet. Just because someone has our BSMS file doesn't mean that they're going to be able to spend on our behalf. We're always going to need the Keystone 3 Pro if we want to move funds out of our wallets. So let's go ahead and save this BSMS file to our files here just on our iPhones. And so that will go ahead and back that up to iCloud for us. And then we can click here on done. And so now we'll see that we've initialized this wallet that has $15 in it that we previously sent over from Coinbase. And that to move funds out of that wallet, we need the key of the Keystone 3 Pro. So let's go ahead now and move funds out of this wallet that we created. So we'll click here on the Keystone 3 Pro. We'll click on send Bitcoin. We'll go back over to our Coinbase accounts. We'll receive some crypto. We're going to choose Bitcoin. And then we'll go ahead and copy our address. Back over here, we'll send $10 and we'll paste our address right here. And now down here, we can click on customize transaction. And here we can do all sorts of really interesting things thanks to Nunchuk. We can subtract our fee from our send amount. We can select a manual fee rate. Just be aware that if you do select a manual fee rate, there's a chance that your transaction could never get confirmed. And if you don't really understand why that works or why that's happening, I'll have videos up in the cards and down in the description that explain UTXOs and how transactions get confirmed on the Bitcoin blockchain. And then finally down here, if you had multiple UTXOs, you could choose which UTXOs you were going to try to send. So let's go ahead here and click on continue, and then we'll confirm and create our transaction. Next, we need to sign this transaction with our Keystone, and we can go ahead and export our transaction via a QR code to our Keystone. So we've got this QR code here, and then we can click here on scan on the Keystone wallet. We'll just go ahead and scan this QR code. Now we're seeing our transaction details here on the Keystone. We can see the to address and the from address on Bitcoin mainnet. We can see some more details about the transaction here, and then we'll just slide to confirm our transaction and enter our passcodes. So now we have a partially signed Bitcoin transaction on the Keystone. And what I can do now is I can click import signature on the Nunchuk and just rescan what we're seeing here on the Keystone. And so that was a super easy process. And that entire thing, the Keystone didn't really need to be hooked up to any computers. It is hooked up to my computer right now for power and because it got the firmware update in the very beginning, but that entire process was wireless and done through QR codes. So next I'm going to go ahead and broadcast this transaction off of my Nunchuk on my iPhone. And we'll see here on the Nunchuk that that transaction is broadcast. And if I want to see more details of it, I can view it on the Blockchain Explorer using this button down in the bottom of the app. This is going to open mempool.space and it will show me in how many minutes my transaction is going to get confirmed. So I can either wait for the transaction to get confirmed, in this case in 9 minutes, or I can pay $33 to accelerate my transaction to be in the next 9 minutes. So if I had set a fee that was too low and this transaction was never going to get confirmed, mempool.space is telling me that I can pay an extra $33 to have my transaction confirmed right now. And if you want to learn more about that process, I did a video on it a couple weeks ago that I'll have up in the cards and down in the description. Obviously, we're not going to do that. We're just going to wait for it. But that's how you send and receive Bitcoin using a Keystone 3 Pro. So overall, guys, that was a super simple process, and I'm really impressed with the Keystone 3 Pro. I think they've made really great design decisions. This feels like a super premium device compared to a lot of hardware wallets that are out there. Obviously, when I was comparing it to the Ledger Stacks, like the Ledger Stacks is kind of like one of one in terms of build quality, and the stuff that Ledger is doing right now is really innovative and interesting. But there's also a ton of criticism to give to Ledger, especially because the code isn't open source. And so if you're one of those people that is really bothered by the fact that Ledger's code isn't open source, the Keystone is an unbelievable alternative, and just the user experience of using this device has been incredible. The fact that they have Bitcoin only firmware is also really great for Bitcoiners. If you were thinking that this is only a wallet for people that are interested in altcoins and some of these other kind of ridiculous, frankly, projects. The way that this seamlessly integrates with Nunchuk, Sparrow, and Blue Wallet, which are 3 of the biggest Bitcoin-only wallets, it makes this one of the most powerful Bitcoin-only devices that I've ever used. And if you've watched this long in the video, you might notice that there are still $5 on this seed phrase. You can't really see it because the camera isn't very good, so you might have to go back into the video and find these $5 and see if anyone else has claimed the $5. It's something. I don't know. You watched a really long video and now you get to maybe have $5, one of you. I don't know. Can you see it? You really can't. But I definitely showed it on camera at some point in this video, and so you can go back and find that, whatever. Point number final, don't put your seed phrase on a piece of paper because pieces of paper are rippable and destroyable. Instead, put it on indestructible sheets of titanium, crypto tag, go get one in the description. I'm trying to rip it right now and I literally can't. And I'm really strong. I've been doing grip strength exercises, so I have the strongest grip in the world. And you'll see that if I try to tear these crypto tags, I literally can't tear them. They're unterrible. Anyway, if you want to see more tutorials from the Keystone 3 Pro, I think it's a really, really cool device, and we've only scratched the surface in this video of what it's capable of, even just using it only for Bitcoin. There's all sorts of stuff like setting up multi-sigs and using it for Shamir secret sharing and stuff like that. So let me know down in the comments if you want to see any other kind of more advanced content on the Keystone 3 Pro. I do still respond to all the comments. And then join the Discord if you have questions for me or questions for the community on the Keystone 3 Pro or what hardware wallets different people are using. I think it's going to be a really great space for all of us to learn a little bit more about Bitcoin and especially start to share trading strategies with some of the other content that we've made here on the channel. That's it for today. I love you all. See you next week.